Today on Bridges, it is encouragement for special needs parents. Welcome to Bridges. I'm Monica Schmelter, and I'm glad that you could join us. If you have a special needs child or grandchild, I'm so glad that you've joined in today. Today will be all about encouragement for you. And joining me is Jamie Sumner, and she is the mom of a special needs child as well as an author. And Jamie, it's good to have you today.
Thank you for having me.
So tell me about your family.
Well, I am mom to Charlie, who is 7, and he is my son he has cerebral palsy, and he's in a wheelchair and he's mostly nonverbal, but he is also my happiest child for sure.
Oh.
He's like the most animated, the most cheerful kid you could ever want. And I also have 5-year-old twins, Cora and Jonas, who are, our life is loud and crazy and busy.
Yeah, with 3 kids it would be anyway. 2 that are 5 twins and then 7.
Yeah.
And so Charlie is your special needs boy, but your happiest child.
Yes.
Did you know when you were pregnant with him, when you had him, did you know that he would be special needs?
We found out that there was something amiss at a ultrasound, but we didn't know kind of what it was. And then the day I got the call from the Mayo Clinic telling me that he has something called Beckwith-Wiedemann syndrome, I went into labor early.
Oh.
Like, I hung up the phone. I'm like, well, we know it's this. And then I went into labor.
Oh.
And that was at 30 weeks. And so he was born at 30 weeks.
Oh, so that was really early.
It was early. My twins were born at 30 weeks too. And I was born at 30 weeks. So apparently it runs in the family.
Got a trend going there.
So I should just trace it back and blame it on my mom. So he was born early, and he spent a lot of time in the NICU. He came home with a trach and a G-tube to eat, and it was pretty precarious for the first year. And then he was diagnosed with cerebral palsy at age 1, which is usually when they do that.
Yeah. So what was that like for you and for your husband to make those adjustments? Because most of us, Jamie, as we're growing up and we imagine that maybe someday that we'll marry and have children, typically we're not thinking that it would ever be a special needs child.
Nobody thinks that.
Right.
I think for us, in a lot of ways, it was a blessing that he was our first, because we didn't have a normal to reset. Mm-hmm. This was our normal. Like, I carried a backpack around that had the suction machine in it that we used to suction out the trach, and I didn't think twice. It sounded as loud as a lawnmower, but I didn't think twice about it, because this is just our life. Like, right. He slept with an oxygen monitor on and all of these things, but because this is all we knew, it wasn't necessarily harder, because we had nothing to compare it to.
Right, because it started out that way.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So how about when the other 2 came along?
Listen, I don't even remember the first 2 years of their lives. Oh. It was so crazy. They were born early, but they just had to grow and get out of the NICU, and they were fine. And we had all these fears because of Charlie, but their growing up was so normal, that in a lot of ways we had to relearn how to be parents, because it was a different way to parent, and you had to learn to trust instincts that you didn't know you had, and to not trust other instincts that you developed when when we were taking care of Charlie. So, but those first 2 years were crazy, because I had 3 non-mobile children, and then 2 that were slightly mobile, and Charlie, and I had a triple stroller, and it was,
Yeah, you were one busy mom.
I was busy.
For sure. Mm-hmm. So tell us, because today is about offering encouragement to special needs parents. What are some of the special challenges that are present when you have a special needs child?
I think probably, well, there's so many, but there's the financial aspects of it. It is just flat out more expensive. You have more things that you're paying for, and therapies and equipment, and it's also, you tend to feel out of the mainstream realm of life in certain ways, because you can't always go to the same places or do the same things, and play dates look differently, and it can be a lonely version of parenting,
Right.
Which is something that I think, there's a lot of parenting books. I mean, there's whole sections in the bookstore that are parenting books, but not a lot of them are specifically for special needs
Right.
parents, and especially not faith-based. So I think for me, I wanted to write a book that would bring encouragement to those parents so that they feel like they're being thought of. It's like that feeling when you go to the park and you see there's a special needs swing there. It's like somebody came ahead and thought about us and did something to make us feel welcome, and not everything has to be a fight, and not everything has to be hard. And so that's kind of what I wanted this book to be, to let people feel like someone is thinking about you.
Yeah, because that's an important part of it. And I shared with you, Jamie, and I'm so glad that you wrote the book so that parents don't have to feel alone or as alone, but to understand there are many, many people on this journey.
Oh, yeah.
And just if we can all somehow get connected. I shared with you that my brother, he's 47 now, he has Down syndrome, and back then, it was even more isolating than it is now. It was really hard to have community. I remember that there was a short time that my family was trying to visit churches and trying to do that. And other parents didn't want my brother in the nursery with their children. And so then it's like, not only do you have this special needs child that you love more than life, really. Nobody seems to want the child around or near their children. So there's just so many layers. So I would love for us to kind of tap into your book, and it's called Eat,
Sleep,
Save
the World.
and Save the World. And I love that. Yeah, one step at a time. So tell me about the book and kind of what prompted you to write it, and how it will bring encouragement to parents.
So the book is split up into 6 different sections, and they're all the different character traits of parents of children with special needs. Hope, resilience, determination, laughter even. And basically it takes you through not what you need to do to get better as a parent, because we have enough step-by-step manuals in our lives.
Yeah.
But through scripture and through stories that I share about Charlie and taking care of him, it kind of takes you through what you're already doing well that you don't even realize. Because there's this whole layer of guilt as a parent alone, and then add the special needs part. Like, you always know that there's something you could do better. And the job of the book is to point out the things that you're already doing and to let yourself rest in that and trust that God gave you the gifts that you need to take care of your child.
Yeah.
And I just feel like we need that. We need to be able to flip our perspective to see what we are doing already.
Yes, because I think for all of us, but I think especially for a special needs parent, life can't be just one continuous cycle of improvement. Like,
right.
Oh
that
my
would
gosh,
be so exhausting.
Yeah, I found myself there. Like, I am just exhausted from trying to be a better wife and trying to be a better mom and be a better person and all of that. And then for a parent of someone with special needs, there's just so many more expectations and so many more things that we need or that we would need to have. So you're saying your book really kind of talks about what people are already doing right and affirming that. Give me some examples in your life and in your relationship with Charlie.
So after Charlie got he got a little bit more like physically healthy and stable. He got his trach out. He got, he could eat more. One of the things that I love to share is how I started to learn to communicate with Charlie, because he's mostly nonverbal, but the thing about this kid is that he understands everything and he's super smart. So, but if you can't tell someone what you know, how do you show it?
Exactly.
So he started with these little picture cards that he would kind of communicate with, and then we have this shorthand at home, which is like if you're in a hurry, it's like, Charlie, do you want to read the book about Thomas the Train or Elmer the Elephant? And then he'll just touch your hand, whichever hand he wants.
Gotcha.
Do you want Cheez-Its or do you want animal crackers? You know, when he touches, and it's kind of like a fast game of it. Well, so his friends at school saw me do this, and they have started doing this hand game with him to ask him what he wants at school, which school is terrifying as a parent to let your kid go off and do that. So to hear back from his teacher and his aide that not only is he not being bullied, but he's actually connecting and they want to be around him. I just had a mom text me last night from his class to ask me if, you know, they're doing Valentine's, and she said she was going to put lollipops in there. She wanted to make sure that Charlie would want one and like one. And just the thought that they're thinking about that, you know. And now he has a speaking device that he uses, and so he's even better at communicating. But it's just one of those things that's like, if I had thought I had to figure all this out on my own, I couldn't have done it. But God put people in our lives, and he's carrying Charlie along through milestones in his own pace, and it's just about trusting that it's happening whether I push an agenda or not, you know?
Like that God can really do it without us pushing an agenda or making it happen, that you're seeing that there are people around you who want to help.
If you can let go of the fear and the control part of it and experience what kind of comes your way, it's so much more restful a version of parenting.
Absolutely. Well, it's hard enough to be a parent anyway. And then to stack special needs and extra expectations and skill sets on that.
Right.
Yeah.
The to-do list is just...
Well, it's never, never ending, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got to take a break. When we come back, we're going to continue to talk about how to be encouraged with your special needs child and really just how to lean into that and trust God and let go of our control. We'll be right back.
Don't miss another episode of Bridges. Subscribe to our YouTube channel today, where you can find all of Monica's latest teachings and interviews. It's easy to do. Just visit youtube.com, search Monica Schmelter, and click subscribe. Once you are subscribed, click the bell icon to get notified when a new episode is available to view. Thanks for watching Bridges.
Join the Bridges community on Facebook. Visit Facebook and search for Bridges with Monica. We would love to connect with you.
For more information on a guest, visit our website, ctntv.org.
If you're just joining us on Bridges today, my guest is Jamie Sumner, and she is the mom of 3 wonderful children, one of which is a special needs child, and she's written a book, and it's called Eat, Sleep, and Save the World. And I just love that title. And, you know, Jamie, we've been talking about so many things, and one of the things that's been clear to me as we've talked is that finding community, allowing other people to help, are really important for all parents, but especially if you have a special needs child. But, like, how do you do that?
That's such a good question. I think the hardest part is to let people see the reality of your life. You know, we live in a world of Instagram and curated everything, and it's hard to let people see the real behind the scenes. This is what this looks like, you know, this is what carrying a 50-pound child up and down stairs and in and out of a car looks like, or, you know, it's not always blissful or peaceful or what people assume it to be. And I think it's easier to act like you're tough and you can do it all and you have it together because that wall feels safe. But when you're parenting a child with special needs, that wall will then become the box you put yourself in, and it can get really lonely really fast. So self-sufficiency is kind of not what you're going for if you really want to experience the comfort and the connection of other people. And so for me, the way that I kind of started to let people in was, it started with situations that I couldn't control anyway. So like when Charlie was younger, he was prone to seizures. And so he would get fevers and then he would have a seizure, and I'd be calling in, the ambulance and the firemen in our house. And you can't be self-sufficient in that scenario when you can't even hold your child safely. And so we had just moved to this new house. The twins were less than a year old, and neighbors came to our house. They stayed with our kids while I rode in the ambulance, and my husband Jody followed, and they brought us meals. They walked our dog. They brought me clothes. And it started with situations like that I couldn't have managed if I tried. And then it became, he got older and he was in school, and I needed help, meeting the twins at their bus stop, and then meeting Charlie at our driveway on his special bus. Neighbors will go down the street and they will meet my kids and walk them back, and it's asking for that and asking for what you need when it's not always a desperate situation. And I think part of that is being willing to let people see that it is hard, and not feeling badly about that, like not letting yourself feel guilty, because this is what life is, and God wants us to live in community, and connecting with other special needs parents that get it, like you don't have to even give them the backstory, they get it already. And lean into each other like you would with anybody that you feel that connection with, and let that be part of your tribe of people that you can kind of connect with.
Are you surprised at some of the things that you've learned about community and asking people for help?
Oh, yes. I spent most of my life thinking the goal was to be able to do it all by myself. Oh, for sure. Like, I got this. I'm going to just keep on trucking. Marriage was the first lesson, and it doesn't work that way. But then with the community, I found people are so much more understanding and non-judgy, which again, like, social media makes it seem the opposite almost, but it's not true in real life. In real life, people want to give you the benefit of the doubt. They want to help. They're not feeling sorry for you. They're just being nice people, and if you let yourself see the world in that way, it does change your perspective, and it does want you to contribute to the world and to be a part of it in ways you wouldn't have otherwise.
I think one of the things that sometimes we don't realize is that when we are really genuine and authentic, it attracts those kind of people to us. And they're more than happy to help, because they want to help. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, they get that wonderful, this is rewarding to help another human being and to help Charlie. It teaches us all the value of life, and just, I think how fragile it is and how wonderful it is all at the same time. And
Absolutely.
It's hard to put yourself out there, but let's talk a little bit about the book and how you help parents be able to do that and to learn these things that sometimes we're in the middle of that, I just need to be self-sufficient, I've got this, watch me.
So some of the things I share in the book are, stories from the Bible where, especially in the New Testament, where the disciples were learning to live in a community, and they had to share everything, and they had nothing but trust and hope and faith. And I think that in a lot of ways that's even harder now, where society tends to be more isolationist, like just, we live in our little areas and we stay in those areas. But part of what the book does is it encourages parents to reach out to the community that they may not know is right around them. The special needs ministry at churches. Our church started a special needs ministry for us and one other family, basically, is when it started. And now it serves so many families, and it's like, if you start to look around to the people that God puts in your path, you see more chances to connect than you would have otherwise. And so part of what the book encourages, there's discussion questions and stuff at the end of each chapter. It encourages it asks questions about the chapter, but then it also steps out of that and encourages parents to take the message and say, now, how can you connect and share with someone that's already in your circle? What could you do to step out and reach out to them? So it's not all about just taking, it's also about giving.
Right.
Which I think is the biggest fear as a parent of a child with special needs, is that I feel like I'm always taking, because we need so much. But there's something else, there's something that we have uniquely in us that God gave us that allows us to share and be strong for other people too, because we built that muscle up. We have done a lot of time there, strengthening certain areas of us that can benefit other people.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, read this book and take in encouragement, and then turn around and you can share that with everyone else.
Right. Is that part of what Save the World comes in from the title of the book?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I talk a lot about superheroes in the book and some of my favorites. And there is something to be said for this idea of seeking justice in the world and bringing hope and fighting battles that maybe nobody else wants to fight. And not just for your own family, but for the world at large.
Yeah. So that everybody will know how really wonderful that life can be and how kind that people can be. I think for any family of a special needs child, there's a lot of compassion that gets developed that way. I know just even, as a teenager, seeing my brother and seeing what he went through, and watching people sometimes in public give him stares or getting teased at school. That sense in my heart of justice of this isn't right and I'm gonna make it all go away somehow, some way, that's huge. That's played a very large role in my life and in who I am as a person. And I don't know for sure that I would have that if I didn't have my brother.
It really does. I hope that for my twins, as they grow up with Charlie as their big brother, it changes the way you view the world and the battles you are willing to fight and step into, and even how you fight them.
Yeah.
You fight with compassion.
Yes.
And with the ability to dialogue and, things that you learn through your relationships with these children or these siblings. It's a skill that you would not learn if you didn't practice it all the time.
Right. I remember when I was getting married, my brother's special education teacher got invited to the wedding. And I had never met her before. And I remember when I met her and she goes, "So, you're Monica." She goes, "Whenever your brother gets in trouble at school, he'll say, 'I'm going to tell my sister Monica on you.'"
That's so sweet. Before the word advocacy was anything, he knew you were his advocate.
Right. But I just really wanted to step in there and make his life and make his world better because I loved him so much. And I think that that's what the power of love does for all of us. And I think that that's something that anyone that has had a special needs child in their family, that we do develop that compassion and that love and that sense of, let me tell you more about the world. Let me help you understand it's not easy for everybody. And we need to help those that might have these special challenges. So tell me some other things you give, because I know that there are parents, there are grandparents watching today that are just like, okay, Jamie, tell me what else I can do.
So part of what the book does is, with each of those different sections, is it shows the reader, which, it's for parents of special needs kids, but really it's for caregivers, anyone who experiences kids with different kinds of needs. So teachers, Sunday school teachers, it basically shows you, if it's not an immediate part of your life, how to best lean in for parents. And it encourages outsiders, I guess, that haven't maybe necessarily experienced on the level of parents. It is it gives you an insider's perspective on what that life is. I mean, that's why we read books anyway. It lets us experience things we never would otherwise. And so part of this book is it shows anybody how better to love and serve the people in their community that need it, the parents, the children. it's not just meant as a one-on-one encouragement for parents, it's meant as a community encouragement.
Yeah.
Which for me was a large part of the book because people want to help.
Yes.
They just don't always know how.
Right.
And they don't want, there's this whole big, we don't want it to be awkward, or we don't want it to make you uncomfortable or embarrass you. And so people don't ask questions. And the thing that I always say is, please ask questions.
Exactly.
Like, please ask me. If you see Charlie and I in the park and he's got his speaking device and we're in a wheelchair, like, we'll have kids that come up and want to ask us things, and parents will pull them away. And it's because they think their child might be rude. And I'm like, please let them be rude, because at least they're curious.
Well,
and that's what the book is about. It's about answering questions for people that may be a little uncomfortable asking.
Right, because it's so much better to be curious and sometimes even seemingly rude than to just be invisible and to be ignored. I think that's the worst, to feel like people are just pulling away when go ahead and ask what you need to ask, and we'll answer, and it'll be okay. We're all out of time, but I want to thank you for coming today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been good to have you.
Thank you.
Stay tuned. Monica will be right back.
Prayer changes things. If you need prayer, call 615-754-0039 or email prayer@ctntv.org.
Don't give in. God's word says you're an overcomer. It takes training. It takes discipline. And so when you're fighting that good fight of the faith, you take your story, whatever it is, and you saturate it in faith, and you fight for it.
Visit monicaschmelter.com to schedule Monica to speak at your next event.
Log on to www.ctntv.org, where you can make a prayer request, view our program guide, see who's on Bridges, or even watch one of Monica's latest teachings. Log on to www.ctntv.org.
We've talked about a lot of significant topics on Bridges today. We've taken a look at parents of special needs children and how to respond and how to help and how to develop community. And I think the one thing that applies to everybody that's watching today is that none of us were meant to do life alone. We were meant and designed to live life in community and in a community of faith. And so Jamie talked about so many important things today, and that is to be comfortable with asking for help. If you have a special needs child, or even if you don't, life gets hard, and sometimes we need to ask people for help, and we need to be prepared to receive that help with graciousness and not with guilt. God designed us to walk in relationship and community, and it's best when we lean into Christ and just do that. We're out of time. We say goodbye, and God bless you.